If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon ship, open a can of whatever you sip and join the fellowship.
Hello and welcome to the Fellowship of the Ring Pool. It's going to be the last time I introduce this podcast like that. We'll get back to that in a minute. But sitting beside me is a great, can I say old friend? I mean, you're not old, but we've known each other for a while.
We have.
Andy Gray, who is just an absolutely, just amazingly influential figure in all aspects of music, from starting out as a side quest rescuer
For Hans Zimmer,
all the way through working with the likes of Human Lee, Gary Newman, Muse. You did some work for back
early
in the day.
Muse,
Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And then a kind of partnership with Paul Oakenfold's stable. Very famously did the Big Brother theme, which is I always maintain it's one of the greatest bits of audio branding ever. You play a single beat and a half from that track, Big Brother.
Absolutely.
And that's, a testament to the Big Brother theme. We won't dwell on it because we talk about it far too much, but a testament to it is that they did use just tiny little clips, and you just
with an eye,
but you just know Big Brother. And you've moved into media composition, and after about 10, 11, maybe even 12 years, we've finally got to do something together.
Well,
other than drink.
And it's we spoke about it ages ago. You happen to be the king of the sample, making samples into money, into a business, where everyone else was trying to scramble around and record them. And, it couldn't be a better home for my vision. Yeah. And we become friends through, I'm trying to exactly remember. It was probably via something else, but we had the same.
We had the same
agent.
So
we had the same agent. Exactly. That was a good enough reason, or not. But we become friends, and we have a lot in common with the sonic imprint of. They both have the passion for sampling. I think you might have done a joke once with taking the mickey out of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Well, I went to the extreme when I was a kid, getting an emulator 2 and sampling on the emulator 2 Ferris Bueller's Day Off samples from the VHS and playing them in my bedroom because I was that obsessed. That was when the emulator 2 was maybe 10 years old at the time, so a long time ago. But we're both sample nuts.
Yeah, and sound nuts, and dare I say it's that thing of. I get it so often when I'm making YouTube videos about like sitting there with the JP8000, which is I think it is a digital synth.
It's wicked. Yeah,
it's wicked. But sampling and I'll get a comment something like, well, you could just do that with the VST, and it's like, but it's just that it's all about, for me, it's that extra 1% that is so difficult to achieve. And I think there's a phrase that comes from computer gaming that I think that happens a lot with music in the box, and it's called the uncanny valley, which is like, it's basically this term for realism in graphics, that the realer it gets, the better the game seems. And just before it gets as brilliant as it can be, it falls down an uncanny valley and becomes absolutely shit. And there's something about like a CS80 VST that I think it falls down that uncanny valley. It's something that just doesn't quite work about it. And for me, it's as much about the feeling that something you're working with gives you as opposed to just the sound.
With something like CS80, the inflexibility, if that's a word, that thing is a beast. You got to tame the beast to try and record it. If you get the plug-in, you can just have 55 attempts. And there's something that bypasses something like that. That is a monster to deal with. You got to play it. You got to work out how it works. Plugins, you can just go through 99 presets and go. But that's not the heart of the CS80. The heart of it is the interaction between that front end and being met with something on the camera. It's very hard to understand how big it is physically. And the buttons are big, the knobs are big, everything's for my age, I remember Vangelis playing it, so it harps back to all that stuff. And there is something about sitting in front of the CSAT that makes you approach it differently.
Yeah.
Whether it be playing, like we were talking earlier about a single note, can it give you, can it give you feeling?
Yeah.
Well, that thing, playing the D, the key I prefer, and moving the filter, gives you a massive feeling. Would I hold a D and move the mouse on a plug-in? Probably not.
No.
That's that.
Yeah, and you were talking about, we were having a quick drink at the pub, and you were talking about meeting the guy did all of those like glam rock,
John Hudson, the drum engineer.
Like, how does it sound this good? But remember that people use, it's for us, we do remember that thing of using a console.
Oh my God!
And all of those tiny fractional movements you do, and that moment where it all just locks in, is not something you can recreate with a mouse.
It's almost impossible. And as you'll see, if you've come over to my channel, we're going to move on from some of the stuff I'm doing with you.
Yeah.
You'll see that I still, as much as I find it's very annoying because I want a desk that has nothing on it but a keyboard and a screen. I can't get my way. I've got 24 faders still. I've got 3 iPads, a proper play and stop button, 3 iPads that I touch, 4 iPads as Vita. I have to have a mixing desk. I cannot get away from it. If I use my laptop mobile, but I need faders. I just need them. I don't sit and ride them like I would on an SSL. Mm-hmm. But there's something about the creativity of, you hear a noise, you just grab it, move it, mute it, and click, 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 click. It drives me nuts. I love being in the box. And you know that we had this thing, I've gone to Cubase or Nuendo even now, but I have to have tactile surfaces, as I've have for years, because I cannot do. I have to sometimes deal with a laptop and just with the trackpad. In fact, I use a trackpad, but even that, I need to be more connected than this little. Where is it? And you move it, and then you grab does my head in.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a brief chat. We're going to invite everyone on board. Now, if you have not seen this podcast before, basically the fellowship is anyone who wants to join us on the Google Meet, which is linked in the video description down below. Those of you watching on Instagram, if you want to join in the conversation with Andy, hop over to...
Get over there.
To YouTube. Often you'll see the same faces pop up. They're not invited. They just come on board. So come in. You don't have to say anything. You just be on the screen. And it's so lovely for us to do it. You phoned in once, didn't you?
Well, I phoned in.
Part of the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, I call it the Brady Bunch. You probably won't know, depending on how old you are. But I'm so excited to be here and watch the Brady Bunch pop up. All you viewers, it's going to be wicked.
So there's a couple of things that basically what's going to happen today is just a couple of bits of business. Is one, we've got a competition winner challenge winner for the latest challenge, which was the bridge guitar one, and one, dare I say, that I felt was difficult to judge. So often with these things, it's like, how do we pick? With this one, it was difficult. We actually sent a kind of rebrief out because what I gathered from the results was a difficulty in working to brief. And I think it's something because I've been at it for 30 years, you've been at it, for similar, if not longer. You started earlier.
Because I'm older.
No.
No,
2 years.
Yeah, come on.
But I think it's something that's so easy to take for granted is being able to work to brief. So that's something I wanted to talk about and wanted to throw open to people out there. Yeah. I've actually just filmed a video about working to brief where I compose a thing, and I haven't put it out on YouTube yet because I listened to the track that I did and it wasn't to brief. It's a difficult.
But you probably enjoyed yourself.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. Way too much ego went
exactly.
But it was, for me, it was also. I think I was analysing it too much, and it becomes kind of second nature, and this weird internal dialogue that you have based on everything you've listened to, everything you've worked on, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's something I wanted to talk about.
Great.
We were having a talk before we came online about what you do to make things your own, even if they are commercially bought, particularly with samples and stuff.
Yes.
So I think that's something to talk about and to invite people to come on board about. So maybe we'll start with that. The one thing I have to do before we start. Also, what we're going to be doing is announcing the new name for the podcast. There's been a problem. It's been fine since we've been on YouTube and stuff, but since we put the podcasts out on like Apple and I don't like saying the word Spotify, but Spotify and stuff like that. Yeah,
no, we got to.
Yeah. Basically, when you search for us, all you get is Lord of the Rings podcast. So we've had to change it, and I'm basically going to make a sign when someone says the title to the podcast because it's something that's said a lot on this podcast.
So and for everyone, you've not told me.
No,
and I don't want to know.
Yeah, so I'm going to basically go like that when someone says the thing that's said more than anything else on this podcast. It'd be interesting to know if you guys guess it. But before we start, I have to thank you because, and it's pathetic to say, I'm stone cold sober. It brings a tear to my eye. I have to thank you for something that has changed my life. Ooh. And I mean this really seriously, is switching to laptop.
It literally is. It is so freeing.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. My life has. It's just that thing of when something goes off to a dub, that you can go places.
Take it to the bloody dub.
Yeah, but also when they're off at the dub, you can go on fucking holiday.
Yeah. But exactly. I've even taken this thing to the dub.
Yeah,
because in case the stem separation, it's a nerve. It's not a big project. There's no loads of money. I mean, you can go on holiday and still send music. I've been doing that for years, like downloading versions, and even on an iPhone. I'm not supposed to be on holiday, but I'll wait 2 days and then send it. But obviously, being able to be mobile and not stress, and being able to send it's a game changer. And we know that on the horizon, it's going to get more powerful.
Yeah,
the next iteration, M3, M4, M5, M6, is getting more and more power. My preferred thing. You still got your laptop open in my studio. I want my laptop out of sight. It's under the desk. 2 Thunderbolt cables. My whole studio comes on like I've bought the most expensive Mac Pro known to humanity, with all the keyboards, all the iPads. So I still think I'm in this thing. I plug 2 cables, take it into the house. Someone phones up and says, "Can you change that?" I open it whilst having dinner. Done.
Yeah,
brilliant.
And this is, you add all of this stuff together, the stress that it adds, the stress to your family.
Run back over.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not talking about like having to. You're running big templates, aren't you?
Man, I've got the biggest you can get for the Mac, which is 8 terabytes, 128 gig of RAM. I would like a little bit more RAM, maybe 320 in the next one, but they probably won't do it. But I'm running deactivated templates now. So I'm not a template man. I hate the idea of my life being, I open this template, almost like someone turning up to the office job and tidying their stuff, like their pens and pencils before they start work. The idea of that appalls me. But I've come up with this idea of a deactivated template, which is nothing in that template, or virtually nothing in that template is the soul of the project. So the sounds that are made for the project, they're not in that template. These are the like bread and butter things, even though I hate that term, but they are. And it's massive. It's deactivated. I can access it from my iPad. Boom, solo violin. I get 30 solo violins from various sample companies. Which one inspires me to write this riff? Right, that's good. Melody. Delete the rest. Move on. The template starts at about 500 roughly tracks deactivated. And, you have low, high, sub for percussion. You're not going to use all those, but these are the key things that are quick, boof, boof, boof. And then you start sound designing once maybe the director in some cases says, "I love where you're going." And then you start really, really drilling down. And you're hoping that, this is the same with using samples and using the real orchestra. You're hoping the director is not going to hear that you've swapped out this boom that you've used 100 times for the new one. And lots of the times they don't. But sometimes you get to record in orchestras and you swap out, in my case, it's not massive budgets, but, Prague, there's 60 players. You swap them out and they go, "Oh, I don't know, didn't it sound better before?" And you're thinking, shit, that was samples, right? So, you got a starting template, and these laptops now, man, they can handle it literally without a sweat. And it's a game changer.
And they're built like brick shit
Oh,
houses
and they
as well.
literally.
So
I hadn't even got a bag.
The
Mine's
nervousness you'd have of like taking your tower to a dive.
Oh my God, you can't. Yes, that's no good. And and it's the same is like they're built well, and everything's fast. You can open it. You can, while you're walking, you can go through stems and stuff. Close it.
I thought you were going to say like open it as in like.
Oh no! I don't think.
Open it, crank one of the chips out.
I don't think. I think you used to be able to do that in the old days. I think these new Macs, they seem to be like basically there's just one thing in there. But I change mine if I can every year, but sometimes it doesn't warrant it. So every 2 years, and just forget about it. Someone says, "Oh, you spend £6,000 on a laptop." Well, that is a lot of money. I'm not putting that aside, but I used to spend 12 grand on a computer and 4 grand on a laptop. And I'm also a slave to updates. I've updated the studio. Now I've got to update the plugins on the... I've got just one slip. And I can read emails and messages while I'm composing. It used to be like, don't have mails on you. No, I just have everything. Just leave it on. Works fine.
I've wanted to do an episode about return on investment, and people criticise like how much you spend on a computer.
Nothing.
And it's like return on investment compared to like that Moog vocoder.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've never used.
Oh, exactly.
The return on investment is very...
It's nothing. And, Macs hold their price. You're going to get... I would average 60% back, no problem, as long as you look after it. And it's so cheap compared to how we... And it is running everything. Yeah. Everything. All these synthesizers that we own cost a lot of money. If we didn't have a computer, what are we going to do with them?
No, nothing.
Nothing to do with them.
Should we get everyone on board?
Yes, please.
And I think that would be fun. Should we invite everyone on? And then we'll continue having a bit of a natter to try and get... hello all. Lovely to see everyone. Here with Mr. Andy Gray, the phenomenal Andy Gray.
Oh, that's
and this is the first time that you've actually been here in person for this
it's
new...
exciting.
We did a fairly drunken podcast here before we came up with this format, didn't we?
Oh, yes. Well, you and I.
That was a bit raucous.
Yeah. Well,
in the bad old days.
Yeah.
But basically, what I wanted to do is have a brief chat with you, Andy, before we throw it open for people to comment. And there's just maybe... two things I want to touch on, and we'll keep it kind of brief. But let's start talking of brief. Let's talk about briefs. So, when you started out, you're building tracks. You're going with the flow, as so many people do. They're writing a song about the grandparent that they lost, or this, that, and the other. But you kind of go with the flow. Things develop. Things evolve organically. Working to brief is different, isn't it?
It's so different. I mean, going with the flow as a start, the flow is your idea. This is what I want to pursue. You come up with an idea, you go down the rabbit hole of pursuing it, and if you haven't got a brief to rein you in, you're doing what you enjoy, you think this is right, more like an artist in a band. So this is what I want to do. Yeah. A brief is completely different. Yeah.
And how did you... Because I think it's difficult to think back to being able to work to brief, but it is something that you I don't know, for me, something that I picked up that happened quite quickly is when I watch a scene, I know what tempo it is. And it's just something that you kind of pick up. And working to brief, it's really, really difficult at first. In fact, I'm doing all of the graphic design for Crowhill at the moment. Yep. And what I've got a kind of okay, I need to do this. And because I'm just finding out about all of these tools and stuff, I just get completely sidetracked into something that doesn't match up. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about that, developing that skill of working to brief?
Well, I think what you need to do, it depends where you come from. I think it's actually harder if you're like in a band vibe. A band could be you as the artist. If you're an artist or a band and you create a sound or a style or a genre or whatever it be, and it's to please yourself but to try and make it sellable, then if you are fixed with that, that's very, very difficult moving to a brief, because you're creating music that you hope other people are going to like, and the only other person that's going to tell you they don't like it is because you don't sell anything, or these days no one clicks on it, right? So, or I know you could put that down to not being lucky enough to have the advertising, but in a general sense, that's what it is. You're an artist. You either are topping the charts or are the clicks because people like you or have discovered you. Working to a brief is completely different because it's not your project. If we talk about films, or mainly films, let's talk about that. So it's the whole project is fundamentally it's supposed to be telling the story, but it's telling the story through the director's eyes and ears, really, because it's their baby and they've got all the stress. So if you're very, very lucky and you're Vangelis and whatever, and you find a director that loves your music and wants your music on their film, that's a kind of a different thing. That's a different thing. But if you're doing the likes of what you and I do, which is, you're trying to tell the story, support the narrative, support the director's vision, support what you see on the screen. Sometimes they wanted the chase scene to look more dramatic, so you've got to overscore it. Sometimes they're happy with something, you've got to underscore it. And I think it's mainly dealing with, why did you get hired? Why did they pick you? And trying to hang on to why did they pick you, but then kind of forgetting all of the rules that you've got and listening to what it is they want from their big vision. And it's that combination of, you've got to remember why they hired you. So you can't just copy someone else. The worst thing we get is obviously a temp score. Usually the temp score is the most expensive, most popular thing at the time. There might be $5 million worth of orchestral scores that you get to digest over a 2-hour long cut, and they're giving you a tenth of that in the budget. And you're like, well, Christ, you've gone from John Williams to Hans Zimmer to Johan Johansson, and you got me 50k, and I've got to go to Prague, right? So how are we going to do this in a realistic world? So that is another challenge. But I think it's mainly listening and not being. This is the very, very difficult thing: is not rolling over. Not sure that's right. Okay, I'll do it again. That shows a director that you're not even passionate about what you do. That's one of the problems. Oh yeah, I'll just do it again. Oh, what does that mean? He didn't even like it? So it's that hybrid of having, right, let's try something else. Well, in my case, what is it you don't like about it? I mean, I would never ask that question. It's just like some directors say, well, I'm not a musician, sort it out. And then you have a bad rapport from then on. So it's kind of like trying to listen to what, trying to feel what they see, what they want, and moulding why they hired you with that. I think that's the challenge. That is the challenge. And believing in yourself, not copying anyone necessarily. Even if you come close to copying, lots of us do, because nearly everything's been done in some form. It's just having the ability to realise they've hired you for a reason, that you're not going to get fired unless you're really, really bad. Or not when you say you're bad, it's not that you're bad; it's that you clash, or excuse me, or something goes wrong.
Bad, yeah.
But yeah, it's that malleable. It's being flexible and putting your foot down to a degree when you need to, and sometimes explain why. So you don't see. I do something. They say I didn't see it like that. You say, okay, well, before we talk about this is why I saw it like that. That doesn't mean I'm not going to redo it 10 times for you, but you malleable. The situation is malleable, because what they want and there's nothing wrong or right. It's an opinion. So we're trying to get an opinion to be unified, and it is definitely not holding on to it. Say, well, I like that. That definitely is never going to help you.
No, I wish I'd had this advice years ago, because I'm a roller over, and now thinking about it, it's a very, very fast track to losing respect and confidence.
I think if you roll over fast, I love listening to Composer, and I would recommend it to everyone. I actually run out of listening to composers talking about this sort of thing, round tables on YouTube, and then went to directors, and then went to cinematographers. So I've sort of listened to all of it, and I remember this. I remember listening to Trent Reznor talking about, I think it was actually Social Network, and wow, I was really, really impressed. So he was talking about working with Atticus Ross and Social Network, and he delivered, and I think they still do this, they deliver 3 versions. This is like out there, dark and nasty. This is super pleasant. It's somewhere in the middle. And it's like, is it David Finch, the director, or whatever? And he's like, yeah, I like the dark and nasty. And that's just a demo. And then him and Atticus would know from that point on, now they know where they stand. They're pushing everything to the left rather than the right. And I think I've not personally done that yet, but I'm actually looking on the next project of doing that. We don't want it too happy. I'm going to go so happy then I'm going to go dark happy, and then somewhere in the middle. If they go really like that left one, then you've got a bit of a starting point to dig in. And that was something I really, really took on board. That was maybe last year I heard that old podcast that was talking about social network. But I've never done that before. I kind of deliver something. I think I maybe stupidly thought that I deliver this and that means I really believe in it. But if you deliver it and believe in the three things, let's use three as an example. This one is well out there. This one is maybe what they want. This one's in the middle. You get an ABC back and you go, well, I know what you're thinking now. And I think that's quite maybe a fast track to that answer.
We'll open up for questions in. I've seen we've got a couple of hands up in just a couple of seconds. I know of a composer who writes 4 of every single cue.
Wow.
So the director, very famous. Well, it's not the director, it's the person who kind of makes these films. It's his name on these films. So he comes in and he's strapped for time. So he just wants to hear 4 different versions and then he picks. I find that very that's soul destroying. Yeah, because that's 4. It must be 4 in theory of everyone opening up to this brief and to this process and doing 4 of everything. But don't know about that. No. Mr. Charles, how are you doing? One day I'll try and pronounce your surname. Kallenberg, is that correct? Okay, so we're not getting it through the speakers. I'm getting it through this speaker here. Now, I think everyone is hearing, but it's coming through my laptop and not through the main speakers. No, you're doing fine. You're
okay. I think I remember Charles. He's got the amazing radio voice, yeah?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're just going to chat for a sec,
Charles. We'll just stop you because we can't hear you.
We can't hear you properly. Just one sec.
Okay, I mean, so I'll come back to you as soon as I can, Charles.
Yep.
We had a fascinating chat earlier today. I am changing the subject here, but we're happy to return back to the thing about the brief.
Yeah.
You talk about your process of making sounds, particularly sounds that you buy your own.
Yes.
I'm very fortunate that I have had the opportunity with a couple of companies to have a resource base where I go, I think I could do with a kind of like 24 mandolins in the hall. Should we do a 24 mandolins in the hall library? So I have this kind of amazing kind of train set to play with, but pretty much no one else has. But you approach sound and the instrument and tools that you work with in a similar way to Hans Zimmer, but without the resources. Exactly. And that is by using commercial libraries, but differently from, I think, most people.
Yes. Well, and first I must say that I'm not condoning resampling. And I certainly, it's sacrosanct that I understand what it's all about. I mean this, and I do mean it. So what I'm going to say is that this is something I do, but I do not say there's this once it's been taken from, let's say, Contact, which is hard to share or impossible, into your own sampler of your choice, that should not be distributed on the internet. You didn't tell me to say that, but I feel giving this away, right?
Yeah.
So for years and years,
they're yours. They're for you.
They're for me. So, but once it's out of a plugin or a product which is copy protected, then obviously it could be put on the internet and it could be for everyone, millions. So I don't do that. But my personal libraries are. Some of them are samples of real musicians, real instruments. You probably see on my YouTube channel, going everywhere, recording drums in big places and going to Prague. And once I pay for in Prague is very different to England. At the end of a session, I might have 15 notes. I want the 60 piece to play, and I take that and I manipulate it. But there's another way to do it if you're in your small studio or your bedroom, whatever. And I do it all the time. I resample commercial sample libraries.
Yeah.
Literally either note for note, turn all the effects off, or put them through something with an effect, and basically manipulate them. My chosen weapon at the minute is Hallian, just because I've for some reason, even though it seems complicated, it works for me. I found Contact super fiddly with this silly little. It's almost like we're looking through an S1000, but it's on a Mac. Why is it so small? So I resample everything, and I would say of my new template, we're up to 70%. Of all of this, so not super legatos, forget it, boring. But But round robins as well, and lots of drum libraries, lots of solo libraries, anything that is of like a one shot of type, including sections, I resample it. And you can manipulate that so well in your chosen engine. It could be ESX, for instance, right?
Yeah.
That's a great simple engine if you know it well. And you would put a contact library into ESX, and now you've got it in a different format. And now you can move it around. You can send it to RX.
Yeah.
You can resample it in RX. You can put burnt-in effects on it. And you can end up mangling this. Let's use a violin that's recorded in the studio. What's the studio you're using at the minute? You're going to take me to
Castle Sound.
Castle Sound. Let's say you've got a Castle Sound violin or Castle Sound cello. You move that into your chosen sampler, in my case, Hallian. You can now chop the start, chop the end. You can change the loop point. You can do so much stuff. And then send that to, I use spectral layers or whatever. You can send all that, reprocess it, re-bring it in, and it starts to become your own. You can then layer that with your old company.
Yeah.
Could be something in Abbey Road. You've now got 2 different string samples layered. Then you could get a silly little violin that you're not very good at playing, put that on the top. You've now got a patch, which is basically your own sound.
Yeah.
And it works very easily for drums. It's a little bit more tricky with the strings. But it's something that I do all the time, and you end up with like an instrument which no one else has got, but the core recordings, which are very expensive for you to make at home, are quite difficult to do if you haven't got an arsenal of players behind you, a microphone.
Absolutely.
So, but it's definitely a thing you can do. But the one rule about this is now being brought into an uncopy protected area, and that isn't fair. I'm paying for my sample libraries and I'm using them. I'm not sharing them. So I would say if you do experimenting with resampling, it's really, really exciting. All this idea I was talking earlier about, and it is true about the good stuff. Like, we all want to have, like, for the authentic string, we want before the bow hits. But what a bitch working with delayed compensation all the time. All I want is a junk, junk, junk. I could just go straight in. And I've got a knob for that in Hallian where it just moves 20 milliseconds in or whatever. And then you play it, it's wow, we're on, we don't need, and we're not trying for an authentic string hit. We're using it as sound design. And as soon as you get it into your chosen sampler that I know you love ESX, it's quite amazing how it changes. It doesn't sound the same anymore.
Yeah. And I think that, when you think about what you're doing with samples, you are altering them. You are, whether it be like whilst they're still in contact or whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
You are laying them into audio and then chopping them up and moving them around.
Yep.
I just see it as a different way of manipulating that, and it may not be strictly according to the EULAs that you sign, but I just don't see any difficulty with that, provided you keep them within the domain that you're working.
Exactly, and they're just played. I mean, you could use Contact or whatever it is, one of the Crow Hills, you could record it, chop it up as audio. It's the same thing, whether you play it and chop it. What I found quite liberating is to being able to pick 3 or 4 of your favourite. I mean, one of the guys that, I love Hans Zimmer, and I met him, lucky enough to meet him really in the early days when he was doing K2. And I saved all of his SideQuest drives when they crashed, and I gave them back to him. He paid me to do this. And then he said, Andy, take all the libraries. And I'm still... They're like one shot. They're no round robins. There's a lot of hiss. I still use them a lot. And once you've re-recorded other libraries, you can layer your favourite 3 strings. When you hit one note, you're getting all these. Oh, I love the sound of that, but the top end of that, and it's a little, not dissimilar to what we're going to do with this library I've done. To be honest, I've been doing it. You can do it with synthesizer, or you could do it with multiple sample companies, and it's actually quite fun going down that place. We're not trying to recreate the best solo violin or the best solo drum hit. We're trying to create an epic drum hit that is based on 4 sample libraries plus you going bang on the table, and it's very, very exciting. And you don't need loads of money to do it because I own 14 terabytes of paid libraries. Why do I need to go reinvent the wheel? I've got it all. It's not executed quite how I want it, but I love the tone of that,
specific to that
exactly.
scene.
Yeah, exact scene. I remember that thing I heard in Abbey Road. I haven't used, or BBC, I haven't used it for 100 years. Or this Hans Zimmer sound I had off of a Fairlight 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That would work well. But now it's put in my choice Hallian. I can just call it up, go, yeah, that is what I remember. Brilliant. And it's just a resample.
Amazing. Do we have sound? Try again. Okay. Charles, can I invite you back in?
Okay, is that working better?
No. Okay, so let's just try one last thing. Sorry, Charles. Charles, can you speak now?
Can I see you or can I hear you? I can hear you.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay. Problem is, with the delay, we're hearing it back. What are we going to do, Alan?
I've got one more thing if you can keep.
Okay, we'll keep talking. Sorry about this, guys. We're experiencing a bit of
I would say for the viewers, all build up your questions, write them down, because I might forget.
I mean, I think that is such a creative way of working, and part of, it goes back to this idea, and this is something that has become a real theme of this podcast is, and I call it the Cranston philosophy, is that basically someone's asked you to do something and you are giving something. It's not you asking for a job. I mean, I know that's what we're kind of thinking. So I really want this gig. But really it's about you offering you.
Yes.
And I think that way is, the thing I've so often say, particularly when people are like stone cold broke and are starting out, is don't buy a commercial library, buy a microphone and make your own samples. It's a way in which you can instantly create your own vibe, and you are safe in the knowledge that what you're doing is totally original.
That is true. The only thing I would say about that is that definitely is true. And if you're fortunate enough to be a composer, which as an artist, so you're an artist, and then you are picked from being an artist because a director or whatever hears you and wants that on their film, that's fantastic. So I would say if you're a composer that doesn't have an artistic, like a catalogue of albums or whatever, I would say that's great, and definitely learn that skill of recording your own sounds. But I think you need, depending on how you get hired, what you get hired for, I think you do need a small core of because what you don't want to do is not be hired in the early days because you're so out there. What they really wanted was the classic string pad, and you don't own one. So I think you need a small toolkit of basic things and then add to it. I really think it's quite difficult to go in. I know you've done it recently, but I know it's quite difficult if you've got nothing. And then you say, well, this is what I see. And they go, no, what we want is a great big string ensemble. And you haven't got one because you can't easily record one. So I think you don't want to go down the rabbit hole like a collector. I'm obsessed. I collect sounds, like, whether it be from an analog synth or whether it be from sample library. I don't use them all. But I think the ability to record your own noise, your own sounds, noises, it is definitely very, very important. So if you're great player, whether it be a pianist or whether it be an orchestrator, and you buy commercial libraries and you sound like some of the average scores, I can't remember what Hans called it, but there's a word for it, and it's like, yes, that is right, then it's very vanilla, and I don't think that works. I think you need something that doesn't make you vanilla. In my case, not really understanding music theory has always helped me, because it doesn't hinder me. Every day I look at the keyboard, it just looks like a new thing.
Right.
You're understanding it inside out and going for a shape all the time. That's another tough thing. It's like, wow, I know every key. I never learned anyone else's music. I can't play anyone else's music virtually. Like, there's lots of guitarists, they just play their own stuff, like New Order, for instance. They don't do covers because they don't really know how to play it. They just play their own thing. That's another little angle. I mean, if you're, you've come out of composing school and you're great, grade A piano, whatever, the top grade piano, that's a problem. But if you're going to do that, but I find you need an edge. And what is your edge? If your edge is you make really original sounds and have a very original idea of writing a melody, that's an edge. But not necessarily everyone's going to want that exact edge. You might wait a long time to get actually fully hired. I think you need a bed. You need a bass, a little bass.
Well, it's going to be a bit of devil's avocado here, because if you are so you and I, very similar, don't really understand much about theory of music and can follow a score maybe, but can't read a score.
No.
And if you point to a note or a whatever on a stave, I really will have to remember.
Have a think for a second. If it's going at 100 beats per minute, and you go,
yeah, well, no. But it's like that one is Get Buggered Down Fulham Airport. Yeah. And, but you do know the ins and outs of synthesis, and that doesn't hamper your creativity.
No, that makes it. If you turn to one of those things and your synthesizers and you're thinking, oh God, what does that do? That hampers your creativity.
But surely that, again, being devil's advocate here, but surely people could say the same about music theory and reading.
No, they can't. It's
What's the difference?
The massive difference, because music theory is a theory based on musicality, understanding what noise you can make from an instrument to then do something musical is completely different. So it's just like saying you understand exactly how a violin's made, but you don't know all the notes. But you know how to play it enough when you're building it to see, does it sound any good? So there's no musicality to understanding frequency, LFO, all the other oscillators that go in. It's not musical in terms of nothing. If no one presses a note, it's not musical. But if you understand exactly how it makes a sound, that you also understand what notes to play with that sound, it's a weird... So synthesizer is a weird, like, dark art of... But I'll tell you a good analogy. You're the first violinist in the best orchestra in the world, but you cannot write a music score. That's weird. So right. I can play anything better than anyone else. Right? We love your violins. Can you write us a theme? No. Well, how does that work? It's the same backwards. How can you play all this beautiful music? You can't write any.
Right.
And it's weird. So you learnt your instrument basing on playing notes that someone else has written, and you put more passion into it than anyone else on the planet, and you are the best, and the best hire you. Right, could you just write me a theme? No, I need to read it. And it's like, wow, so what's going on there? That's the same as the best players in the world. I'm not saying this is generalizing. The best players in the world can't write a note.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at. Because, I mean, I love the Jupiter 4, the JP4.
Me too, I'm looking at that all the time.
Yeah, and I kind of fuck around with it. And occasionally I get lucky. But it sometimes could take me an afternoon.
I love that.
but with you know how to.
Yeah, I know how to make it sound like the Human League, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the difference, that you can kind of. For me, I really have to separate the science of synthesis and composition, because I find it a very different world, whereas you'll get there a lot quicker.
Yeah, but on the other hand, on the flip side. I think, yeah, that's right. But on the flip side, I sometimes, certainly at the beginning of a project, I think we all have this, but beginning of a project, I look at basically the 12 notes. And I normally use a lot less than those. Mine's around D, trying to work out what to do with that. And that's where my fear is there. It's like, what am I going to do with these notes? I don't know what to do. And maybe it's 2 weeks of that, and then and if you're lucky enough, which is not often the case, but it is nice if it happens, with the director or whatever the project is says, that's really, really, I love where you're going, and it's like, wow, then those notes start flowing, and you don't start hitting them, go, oh God, I'm scared of that. And I think mine is muscle memory with the synthesizer. I'm not, I'm an open tune hacker on guitar, but you watch these guitarists and they don't even need to look, they're shredders, and whether they're playing a cover or whatever, they just feel it. So with synths, I've been doing it that long with synths. I grew up with them since 9 years old. That bit it's not. It's just it's not a fair comparison. I just know it inside out. And for years playing these synthesizers, I didn't even play any bloody notes. I'm just making noises that sound like Kraftwerk or sound like Jean-Michel Jarre. I'm not even trying to. I've never tried to play Oxygen or Tour de France or. The model or anything. I've never tried to play it. I'm just not interested. I'm just making noises. Wow, that sounds good. And it's like a kind of, I guess back in the day you'd have called it ambient. It's kind of like creating a noise which is musical. It's not always clashing, although clashes sound great. So it's that really. So it was sound first, and then as my journey changed into here's a bit of picture, what you're going to do. and then you sort of put on the spot. Fortunate enough in the early days where they, the film people wanted us electronic people to put our brand on it, because back then there was Hans Zimmer and a few, but basically the film composers went from a piano humming into a cassette machine to record the strings and then maybe hire someone. And maybe the directors are going, well, we don't want that. This stuff sounds cool that we're here on the radio. I want some of that. And us in the electronic world and the pop world didn't quite know the genre. So they gave us a lot of, which you don't get now. They gave us a lot of slack, rather, that we weren't quite fitting it to picture. But they still wanted what they heard on the radio, so they didn't fire us. They said, look, just keep going, you'll work it out. And I think that's an unfair advantage you had if you were making film music in the 90s. That is very, very different now.
Yeah, and the scheduling has changed so radically.
Massively, yeah.
So I think we're okay. So, Charles, are you still there?
Well, I'm here, but I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we will. If you don't mind, Andy, we'll go a bit longer because of this technical
I'm cool.
issue. Yeah. I had made the mistake of promising Andy a curry after this, so if you start looking a bit forlorn, you'll know why. Sorry about that.
Hurry with
it's
a
quite
curry.
a complicated setup we've got here. Charles, how are you doing? And welcome.
I'm doing well, and this is my question. You started talking about the briefs. I'm working on a local film for a young lady, and then just yesterday, I think it was, I got the script for a new film, but I don't get briefs from these people. What they do is they either A, send me a script, or B, they'll send me footage as they're shooting. So my question to Andy is, do you normally start with a brief from a director, producer, or do they say, well, here's, let's say, a précis of the story, or here is a script, or here's some footage that I'm working with, or is it kind of a mashed potatoes type of thing where you get varied instructions, if you please? Well, and that's my question.
Okay, well, that's a good question. I'd say that the last film I did, which was No Way Up, that was last year, I was very fortunate enough to get it on board before they, virtually before they started shooting. I wouldn't say that's normal for me, but that's a great place to be, and I'm very, very happy to, read the script. Actually, what I do is I copy and paste the script, and press read, and it reads it like a podcast to me, and I go for a run, and this has it audio, and just get it read to me, and then the director speak roughly about what whatever. It depends on the relationship, but basically the ideal world is going to be that they probably like what you do to a degree. You work before it starts shooting. You speak to them roughly what they're after, come up with a few ideas, and then hopefully that starts to stick. It may not work when the thing's been shot or you see the images coming back, but hopefully you get in early and there's no temp score. That's the dream. I've heard of, quite a few big A-list composers. I'm sure we've heard this story, and I think it's fantastic. Like maybe Hans or that, where they write suites and they just write 25 minutes, and maybe it goes up and down, and in the 25 minutes from, hopefully the overall arc. A better thing I actually heard from Hans is not reading the script and taking the director out for some nice wine and some food, and asking for the director to tell them what they think the story is. I mean, for me, as a dyslexic person, that's a dream, plus a red wine drinker. So I think that's the great thing. So I think I would say it's sort of twofold, but the other side, so I would say, in short on that, it's great if you get the script, it's great if there's flexibilities. This is another tricky thing, don't go down the rabbit hole of refining it, which means you so heartedly believe in it because you're now sounding so good. You had this idea, it now sounds brilliant. On the other hand, you can't deliver a shit demo these days, which is a problem. So you've got to get a balance. Keep playing them, keep them in. Don't go away for 2 weeks and come back with this massive wealth of music. Feed them. They want to know what you're doing as well, right? They want, what's going on? Disappear for 2 weeks, come back with 20 minutes of music that they hate. Just play a little bit. Think, this sounds really, really good. Just send them a little bit. If you're in the early days, that's what I would say. And then try and get them to give you, to give you the confidence to then strive forward, rather than keep, for me, playing the notes, going, oh, that's not right. And half the stuff you bin, they might love. On the flip side, I'm not embarrassed to say, I get a lot of gigs because composers are sacked, where you haven't got the time. You haven't got this massive, like 2 week, 3 week build up. It's like, boom, you got 6 weeks to do everything, including record it and have it scored out and everything. And you just, boof, head down. There's good and bad about that. The bad is that you can't come in with a coffee in the morning, experiment with your lovely synthesizers. What sounds am I going to use? What am I going to resample? I'm going to just sit here for a bit, listen to a few scores that I like. That's the downside. But you hit it running. They're up against it. They've already sacked someone. They ain't got the time to keep saying, well, try again. Really, they like the first idea, but they want to say to you, can we hear another way to do it? So there's two flips to that. And I would say I actually would love to be off script, like as it starts, or even I've got an idea. What's it called, Interstellar, where the story we've all heard on YouTube. I mean, what a dream! The director comes in and says, "Can you write me a bit of music like this?" And I'm going to go and write a film around it. I mean, yeah, that's the dream, right? Because you've already nailed the theme and you know what it sounds like. So then it's easy. The hard bit is no music. There's nothing, and then you either see an image or read a script. The director's a bit vague because they don't know what they want, and then it's like, boom, oh, you know, that's how I find it.
I've got two points to add. One is, I totally agree. The earlier you can get on, the better. Definitely. I think where briefing is concerned, often we're talking about pitching. I am definitely guilty of fearing. I want to get all of my ideas. And also I tend to be fairly arbitrary with myself. It needs to be at least 24 minutes of music that I need to send. But I think you're absolutely right. But the thing for me is, I think again, it's this idea of giving. And I don't know if you've experienced, I'm sure you have experienced this thing of when finally you nail something and you give it to the director and it's their theme. There is an ownership that the director takes of that, which will mean they will fight corners for you and protect you and stop. I want more of that. Can you do me another theme? And they will protect you, not only the work that you're submitting, but protect you from people making direct phone calls and stuff. So the sooner you can give a director a sense of ownership over something. Yes. And this is often, and I think that Hans does this as well, this is often when I will actually just go into the studio and maybe record some weird sounds. I remember working with a very difficult director, and I got him on board when I did out of my own pocket pay for 24 mandolin players to go and do something in a studio. And he went, "This is totally original and this is mine." And it's like, that's the point I go, I'm not going to get fired off this. No. Because I've given them something. Yeah, man. So that's a I mean, I would say that's the key. We spoke earlier when you guys were listening, we weren't up about the template. I am Mr. Anti-template. I always have been. We spoke about it years and years ago. But the template isn't the template now, the way I work, my workflow. And if, you know, in a few weeks' time you join me in my studio and I'll talk through this thing about this template. It's not the template which is the score for the film. I think the kiss of death is having this great sonic template already. And in the films come in, you dish out the music. The films, oh my God, that's horrendous. The taking the 24 mandolins is obviously, that was a genius move, and we all know that's a great sound. But the template is just this starting thing, so you're not clicking all the time just to get the bread and butter down. And you know, and I'm not a guy that writes music on the piano that's going to be for a violin. I want the violin, I want to hit the feedback from everything, the vibrato, the legato, whatever it is you're using. That's how I feel it as I'm playing it. So that's what it is. But once we get through this process, lots of it, I would say 40%, is making weird noises, whether it be analog through a mic, whether it be synthesizers, whether it be resampling and smashing it up. That's what gives that film your identity, and your identity changes, isn't it? You're not doing 24 mandolins anymore. You're moving on to the next thing. And this 25. Exactly. 24 and a banjo. But the thing is, I was thinking, like, you know, so we move on, and then someone's studying your 24 mandolin score, and they're doing 24 mandolins, but you've moved on from years before. So our ideas are, you know, hopefully they're our own, to the best of our ability, and we change every project because that's what we do. We evolve, we mature. But we're not going, oh, that's the trick I used on that, so I'm going to pull it out again. But we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We know what a good cello, a violin, and a, you know, what's
Pizzicato sounds like.
Well, the second part I was going to make, which is very, very brief, was that is it Sunyi, Art of War guy? He said there's no such thing as peace. There are just times when you prepare for war.
That's right. That's true.
And being called in as the cavalry is
you always got to be ready for that, because sometimes it's a great call, but it's scary.
The other piece of advice is banjo definitely falls in my list of instruments that must sit on their own stems.
Exactly.
So they can mute that fucker.
Yeah, and in Deliverance.
Sorry.
And in Deliverance.
Yeah. Nick, how are you doing? You need to unmute you. It's the little icon. It's the little icon at the bottom. It looks like a little transport, and it's got a little.
Is this, what platform is this?
This is Google.
Google,
Meets.
right? Yeah.
I can see the icon says that your mic is muted, Nick. No, you have to click on. You see David's switching on his.
David might have a big button. The way he did that, he's got a lever.
Yeah, it's down. It's next to the camera icon at the bottom. There's a little microphone icon at the bottom. Oh, Nick, we'll come back to you, mate. If you flick your microphone, the button on, I can see you flicking it on and off. David Ridley, how are you doing, sir? I've said your surname because we have another David on board.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Christian. And yeah, great to hear from you, Andy. So my question was, like earlier on, you were mentioning about like working with directors that like your sound and versus working with directors from like on other projects. And the only ones I've ever worked on have been directors where they've heard my artist music, and so I've been brought on for that reason. And I'm like curious about like how you get on those other projects. Do you know what's the route to like where the director hasn't heard your music before or your music wasn't used as temp? For them, like what are the routes for kind of less established composers to try and make inroads on those kinds of projects? So I don't know if you've got any ideas?
I think Christian should answer some of that first, but I would like to say, first of all, that is a great thing. Coming from a place where they heard your music and they want you for the media project, film, game, whatever it is, right, is a great place to be. And you might find it like narrow down the line, but the more films you do, more people, and the more that you'll get stretched out from that. So we like that album or whatever it is they like. You go on that project, that works for them. The next one will go, maybe it's another film of theirs. It demands, I don't know what instrument you play. What do you mainly play? Like guitars or?
Oh, I don't. I just compose.
Oh, just compose. Okay, well that's interesting. But use an example so that could be a very diverse catalogue you've got. So maybe what I'm going to give you an example is probably not very good. But if you've got like Clint Mansell or whatever, or I don't know, Johan Johansson, for instance, you've got this kind of catalogue which was quite. Well, Johan Johansson's not a good example in terms of that his catalogue sounded like him, and then they hired him for films. But let's say he got took out of his comfort zone when he did Sicaria, and he put those drums on it, and then that became the iconic thing that everyone wanted to copy. So that director, Denis Villeneuve, would have said to him after Prisoners, one of my favourite films that he ever did, which didn't have all those big drums. Prisoners just sounds like Johan Johansson's, in my personal opinion, his best work, but that's like his old stuff before he was doing films. Then Denis Villeneuve goes, well, you're hired for this job, but what you need now is, this is in the desert, this is drug smuggling, we need a bit more oomph. And then he adds this, and then everyone copies him doing that. So he got stretched out without knowing it from his core, and the director who loved his core now demands a bit more, the studio demands more, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what happens is you get hired for this thing, you get hired for another thing, the next thing demands a bit more, maybe out of your comfort zone, you do that. Then it goes on and on and on until you're in this role where you've shown yourself that they say, drop all that, can you do it on a piano? And you go, fuck, I hate the piano. But you manage to do it, then you get that on your repertoire. And I think that's one of the things I wish I'd have pursued being, I sort of not slated, but I moved away from electronic music once I got to do Swordfish and all that in the day, thinking, I want to just do films. But what I should have really done was keep on the two things and progressed both, and then they would overlap. But I kind of followed the film score thing and studied sampling and studied all that media stuff. But I think that it will evolve. What will happen is it will evolve, because not every job will just use your skill sets, and it will use most of them, but it will demand a little bit more and a little bit more. And I think that's, you know, that's what I would say. So I wouldn't be worried if they like your music, even if it's media style music and it's available on, you know, iTunes or whatever. They will eventually, you'll get asked to do a little bit more than you've been known for or you're comfortable with, and it will evolve. That's what I would say. Yeah,
something that, I mean, I think that you were touching on this as well, David, but I think it's just really important to reiterate that there really is, I would say, 99%, if not 99.5% of people who work as media composers go in via one of two routes. One is becoming an artist in their own right and getting enough exposure that you fall into some playlists or you get some syncs. Often it will be the case. Maybe you hit the charts, this, that and the other, and you get invited in as an artist.
Yeah,
I think that is way rarer because it's more difficult, because you are basically competing in a marketplace, and I'm not talking about financial marketplace, I'm talking about a bandwidth or a number of ears marketplace, which has so many more people trying. You know, there's I can't remember what it is, but there's something like 20 million Logic users. That's just Logic. And I would say you can. I just know every time they fucking update the thing that very few of those are wanting to be media composers, because the way it just deals with certain things. And also this is through experience of meeting people and understanding the kind of market, kind of how it's all segmented. So it is a rarer route because it's more difficult. And I've had the great pleasure of working with the likes of Olafur Arnolds and people like Anne Dudley, who came up through like ABC and Art of Noise and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that it's not a great route to go, but it is definitely more difficult. The other route is by coming up through the ranks. It's not going to music college and studying film music and then going into this marketplace, like you get people queuing up out of CVS's for work and stuff. It just does not work like that. No. What you do is you work within the industry and you move your way up. Yes. And there are a number of ways. Most common way is working as a composer's assistant. Composer gets too busy, chucks you a cue. You do a good job. This is my story. You do a good job, chuck you another cue. I got very lucky. A composer chucked me a cue, which is a montage thing. The director fell in love with it and just peppered his score with it. The director was Tony Scott. Wow. And I let forth, a few notches with that. There are other routes becoming, more. You're seeing more and more music supervisors, music editors rather, becoming film composers. There are orchestrators who become film composers. But it is working your way through the ranks. What you're doing is you're working your way towards being a head of department. And that is it's the producers who pay you. It's not the directors, it's the producers who pay you. And they fundamentally want to know that you are going to be an okay head of department. Now, if a director falls in love with you because you're on one of their Spotify playlists, or they heard you on a Carlsberg advert or whatever, they will have to fight your corner. The producer will want you surrounded by people who are really experienced in that field, and off you go. But that to me is the only two ways it knows. If there's one possible exception I can think of to that rule, it's possibly Dario Marianelli, who went to film school with Joe Wright. But I think Dario went to Italy and made a ton of film schools out there before he started working with Joe Wright. So I just want to. So often I get approached. People go, "I just want to find the work. Where do I go online to find the work?" It doesn't work like it. I think that a lot of people go, well, it's kind of like, surely there must be a marketplace for like commission music, just like there is with library music. No. There isn't. And there's this kind of resentment and feeling like, oh, it's this closed like castle. And if only I knew where that website was. It doesn't work like that. You're coming up through the ranks or you're making a name for yourself. And believe you me, making a name for yourself is way more difficult. Not one composer who I've met, and I'm so sorry, I know I'm hogging, not one composer that I've met who's come up through the ranks doesn't mention another composer and how key that person was. You know, so for Hans, it was Stanley Myers. For Harry Gregson Williams, it was Hans. For me, it was, and I'm not putting myself on that same lineage, but for me, it was Harry Gregson Williams. That's how it works. It's a family tree.
Yeah.
Nick, you restarted Google and it's now working. It wasn't you.
It is,
Google.
yes. It was, no, the irony of it was, the irony was that since the very beginning of the podcast, I was like, this is going to be called You're Muted, Mate. So, yeah, so I've been kind of spamming the chat with that, and then I come in guns blazing with the mic not working. So, yeah, so that happened. Yeah, thank you guys for this chat. It's absolutely incredible. Well, I've been taking mental notes throughout, and one thing, I switched to an M1 Mac right as they came out, and I was moving countries then, and like the disabled track template became a lifesaver, really.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I haven't looked back on having a tower anymore. That doesn't make any sense anymore.
No.
So that's the technological advantages we have. Now, my question though is, I'm working on this film, and essentially I've scored the whole thing except for the intro, because that came in late, and it was kind of edited after the fact. And all that, and the challenge of it is it's like 5 minutes long, and it jumps moods between like these sort of this kind of thriller type mystery thing into these kind of almost comedic flashbacks and some outright comedic flashbacks. And so I'm really having a hard time figuring out how to bridge these gaps where it's like a long sequence and, it has a bit of action and stuff, but then these comedy bits just jump out like a sore thumb. And like, what would be the strategies of dealing with something like this? This is the question to both Christian and Andy, for, these kind of things that jump moods or just generally challenging scenes. What do you guys do when you run into this wall of nothing's working?
There's always a wall of nothing's working at the beginning. But what I would say, first of all, is the intro is really important, man, because first opinions, right? So no matter what's at the back end, but the next thing I'd say real swift is picture, right? There's picture. Well, it's not about the music, is it? So that's first of all. So it jumps out comedic. If you listen to it with your headphones, with your eyes shut, who cares? In theory, the picture's supporting that comedic jump out. Yeah. Well, so so you're just listening to it as a musician, thinking that jumps out, but it's meant the audience ain't going to think that, because if the picture jumps out, it's meant to jump out.
Yeah.
And I would say two things there, real quick. The comedic bit, is that in the movie?
Yes, it is. It's basically like this movie's made out of kind of vlogs. And
yeah, so the beginning is a homage. The beginning is like a forward homage to what you're going to get.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I would do?
Much, yeah.
You know what I would do? Because you could probably got a billion tracks running. And what have you got? Logic, Cubase, doesn't matter. But what you got?
Nuendo.
Nuendo. Okay. Yeah. So you got a billion tracks with a billion bits of MIDI, and that when you chop that cuts off, and that pedal don't trigger. Controllers go to pot. You know what I'd do? Print the stems of all the shit and edit it like an audio editor. That's what I would do.
Okay.
That's what I would do. Chop it. This is the way the audio editors get such a good bag, because they're chopping audio. They've not got to worry about MIDI notes hanging, pedals, sustains, bloody filters. Print it.
Stem it nicely.
Stem it up nicely, in case they say we love it and we still need flexibility. Because chopping the stereo file, I've done this before, real quick. Yeah, we love it. And you think, Christ, how did I do it? And then they say, you send them it, and the dub says, it doesn't sound the same. So stem it out, some of your stuff from down the line, and over the new bits you've written, and just chop the audio and give yourself a break, because dealing with MIDI and controllers is a total bloody ball ache.
It's a brilliant bit of advice, but also it's a different way of working, which actually can really open you.
Yeah, really open you up. Stop thinking about the notes. Look at the waveforms. Boom, in, out, hard cut. Doof. You can't do a hard cut when it's just the reverb's carrying on, but if the reverb's printed, doof, now you're talking. That's why the audio editors, everyone thinks the sun shines out of their proverbial, because they're chopping audio and stretching audio. And stretching strings, man, sounds wicked. And if you're in Nuendo, you can use free warp. Oh my God, you ain't got none of that shit in Logic. And it's like, you know what I mean? It's off the hook, but you're thinking like an audio engineer. So once you go to the dub stage, I'm a little bit off topic, but once you go and the sound stage and record the strings, the live strings, now you've got the strings and you can warp them, which you couldn't warp your Crow Hill string library because it's MIDI. Then you start getting where the action is, where you're forgetting about these on-offs, triggers, controllers, and then you're looking at waveforms with a cup of coffee going doof, doof, doof. Wow, this thing's popping. And that's like a trailer editor. That's what I would do, without a doubt.
I have one piece of advice where comedy's concerned, just lift.
Oh, at the funny moment, yeah.
You can't make comedy funnier with music.
I'm not even a kazoo.
No, my brother is called Buster Keaton. My brother's called Christian Henson, named after Buster Keaton. So for me, it's got to be the straight lace. And you will not see me mark I did 42 episodes of Inside Number 9.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You will not see me mark a single fucking joke in that entire series.
And that's a masterpiece, mate.
Oh, thank you.
We love it.
And that's what you can do. You can play with contrasts, and it's, and then let them gag. But that would be my approach.
Thankfully, the director does not want any music under the comedy bits.
There you go.
So that
Use the audio.
we're
Cut
on
it
the
dead.
same page.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna chop it up.
Chop
Cheers,
it up.
guys.
That's the way, man.
Thank you so much.
You guys wouldn't believe how hot it is up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass us on to Jay. I'm going to leave you alone for literally a minute, and I'm going to go down to the fridge and see if there's a beer in there for you.
Oh, lovely, mate.
So, Jay, over to you.
Are we off camera?
No, you're still.
Okay.
I'm going to come back.
Oh, okay. Go on, Jay.
Probably. Andy, just real quick, it's called flex time in Logic, so we do have that Nuendo free warp thing for Logic users. I wanted to go back about the music theory thing, because even though, yes, I agree with you in a lot of things, that yes, you don't need to know that this is a C to make it sound fine, but I think to an extent, as music people, it is in our best interest to know at least a little bit of music theory, because enough to communicate ideas, because then it does happen that you'll get, I don't know, a violinist who's like amazing, can read everything in 2 seconds, but then when they ask you, hey, what is this chord? And you're like, I don't know, it's a this thing. Like, okay, but tell me what it is, because at some point they're gonna have to improvise if you want them to improvise something or whatever and explain it. But at the same time, it helps. At least for me, coming from an outcast to the podcast.
No. But don't get me wrong. Listen, I'm just talking about this is me. Not my approach. This is what I have. My tools that I have. My skills. So I'm overcoming the lack of skills. And I can't speak for anyone else. So in my personal position, I may have a lack of music theory. So there's a way around that. And, similar to very, very simple. I mean, I can read and write very well, but I'm dyslexic. But now the internet's prevalent. There's a way around that. Of course I can read, but I can't enjoy books like anyone else because I can't read the different personalities in this book, and that's something I've had to overcome since I was born, right? So you can overcome limitations. I'm not saying that given that you understand all music theory, that's a bad idea. But what I would say is that, and I definitely don't mean that, what I'm saying is that I spoke to Gary Newman about this years ago, and we he's a very, very good friend of mine, and we spoke about, wouldn't it be good if we knew more about music. And Gary just said, well, I used to think that, but not anymore, because I wouldn't have come up with this riff and I wouldn't have come up with that. Now, that's not saying that if you understand music theory, that makes you a bad composer, songwriter, because it does give you this amazing knowledge of scales, keys, other people's songs. Maybe you learnt them when you was in college or whatever it was, and you're brilliant, proficient on the instrument, X and Y, right? That's fine. But there is a chance that some of those people that understand music inside out can't help when they get into a corner leaning on theory, because you understand that, well, there's 15 options from there, because I know that Handel did this and Mozart did this, or Hans Zimmer did that, and you've worked out what Hans Zimmer did or whatever it is. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. I using an example, I don't know Harry Gregson Williams, but I've heard him talk about this quite extensively, that Hans Zimmer doesn't have the music theory, Harry does. And Harry Gregson Williams has said on lots of YouTubes about it's a good thing to have, and I'm sure it is, to fall back on, and it's not a bad thing to have. But there is a chance that some of these people, of these musicians, composers, lean on music theory before they push themselves to what could we do. They may get in a corner and just fall back on, well, that works. Well, if you can't fall back on that works, you've got to keep pushing forward. And that's all you can do. All you can do is just keep going until something works. Now, as I say, I'm not advocating that either's better than the other. I don't have music theory, and I'm not saying if you did have it, it's a bad thing. It's a great thing, and you've studied it, and it proves you can study stuff. It's not in my my armor and my tools. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. And if you've got both, if you can understand all of that and come up with avant-garde, great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just play to your strengths. And experiment and investigate your weaknesses. I mean, I always like, whenever I'm working with Theo, who's an amazing guitarist, and it's just like, just leave the keyboard and the samples alone. Just concentrate on that guitar, because that's something that I can't touch, and it's that originality is so valuable. I tell you, when not having music theory is fucking terrifying, is when you have a director on a session and you've got a large number of musicians in front of you, and they go, it's not really quite working with the picture. I'm just wondering if we could just change it up a bit. Now, I've watched the likes of Anne Dudley, who's an amazing theorician, literally rescore something on the podium. Now, that's not something I'm capable of doing. No. So what you have to do is pick up hacks. You have to be a very good manager of time in these sessions. If you're in the final hour and a half, there's not another break to have. So there's not that let's take a break and you panic stations. What I've learned to do is I can change the way in which they're playing, but I can't change the notes they're playing. I simply don't have that capability at all. If you watch the Quincy Jones thing, he was always, when he was working with Frank Sinatra, he just knew how to read a score vertically, not horizontally, and rearrange things and change things. I'm just not capable of doing that. So what I tend to do is, if I can't solve it by taciting, getting people to mute, go up an octave, play flautando, changing the direction, then what I'm quite good at doing is stemming on the podium. So I know how to stem this up so it can be edited.
Yep.
So that's something to pick up on. And as and it would be a great experience for you, Nick, when you take Andy's advice and stem this up and work like an audio editor. The minute you start actually working like that a little bit at the time. I remember once I had it was really, really early in the days, I had I had a documentary with BBC, and basically my sampler went down. So I suddenly had to basically put this episode together made from audio that I had from the previous episode, and I couldn't believe how quick it was, and how the results were different, but no better or worse. And I think that actually having that experience under your belt is probably quite a good thing to do, because if you start thinking like an engineer or thinking like an editor, then you'll know what to do in those circumstances when you go, okay, for these two bars we'll need the bassoon out. Okay, everyone take it. Now we need the bassoon. Great. Now we need, can we just have the basses? Can you just not play the pizzicato on that bit? Okay, now we'll just take that pizzicato, and then you've kind of stemmed it on the fly so that you'll know you'll be able to edit it together.
It's actually that's a really good. Like the last project I did something. The director couldn't attend to Prague, but I did something I'd sort of always wanted to do, similar to what you're saying. And I explained to the director that it couldn't be recorded live, even with 60 players. And I did the score in 2 sections, and we called it a B section, and we replayed all of the great stuff that you'd recorded back in the day, like the tundras and all that. I made it up with those and layers. And then I got my copyist guy by ear to copy that. And that was the hardest bit he did. And we called it the B section. So we played it all twice. In Prague, you can double track as well. So you never got to hear what you're going to hear when you get back. But they played these noises, so there's no samples used. But there are 15 sound libraries doing weird trills, tremolos, bends, all that shit. Rescore that and get the whole lot to play it live, and then do it twice, because the B section was just one take, but then we double track the big bits, so it's modular and you're recording it. And that was really, really exciting way to do it, and it gives you massive control. There's no way anyone can step in at that point, unlike an Anne Dudley score, and say, can you tweak it? Because this thing is like an experiment with all these players doing it, and the experiment needs to be brought back to the lab and dealt with to be able to be played. On the Anne Dudley thing, she's very, musical, so therefore it's much more musical in terms of a score led and easier to read. Not for me, but for the musicians. And I think that anyone with that ability that can then change it on the fly, that's definitely not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of approach of trying to forge your way through sonics and melody and telling a story that doesn't necessarily mean, in my case, I speak for myself, not everyone, doesn't necessarily mean that music theory is what delivers that story. No. It's just my approach, and I'm not saying it's the biggest or best approach. It's just that's all I have. I don't have anything else, and I can't let myself write any of the lines. Like someone said, like on TT3D, we get not going to say his name in to do the strings. I'm like, are you joking, man? It's my favourite bit. I'm going to do the strings. And you just work out the strings with samples, and I do all my own arranging. I start with the string sections, the big pads, and backing it out. Then go first, second violins, violas, and then work through it. And it's great. And then the copyist will come in and say, "Yeah, those notes are rubbing." And I'm like, leave all of that. All of that, because that is why that chord sounds the nuts, because those things are rubbing, right? You pick that note 2 up and 1 down, it's like, wow, that's a total pedestrian chord. And I want that. I want I want Jerry Goldsmith. I want Clash of the Titans, and that's my opinion. But I'm definitely not against people with music ability. I don't want anyone to take that from me, because I think it's a great talent if you understand music like that. And you can move forward. It's a brilliant thing. And you've bloody worked hard to learn it, that's for sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Just one last tip. I always add a day to the mix time of any score if you're doing any live instruments, even if it means fibbing to your line producers. Like, is there any way we can get that a day earlier? And I always add a day, which isn't mixing the score, is post-production. Because I always want to slip those samples back in, and you just have to, you have to shimmy stuff around a bit and fix stuff up. The orchestra's never tight as you want it to be and stuff. So post production is an important thing. That's where you wish you had the free warp, man. You hear free warp on a live orchestra, you're like, what? Where was I? I've seen Hans Zimmer's rhythmic scores after they've been recorded. I won't mention the name of the music editor, but he is phenomenal. That thing is not chopped up; it's diced. Yeah, exactly. It's diced with it's like mental. Yeah, amazing. Post production's key. Yeah. Michael Urquhart, how are you doing?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, some valuable insights that you guys are talking about. I personally think everyone's different. Some people, maybe you, Andy, and Christian, come from a more synthesis, sound design background from when you started. Some people are obviously theoretical and like to be classically trained, if that's how you want to put it. So I think everyone's getting. I think everyone can get to the same objective, just in different ways.
Yeah.
And so, as much as composition can create different sounds, I think what we need to bear in mind is, do we have an ear for music? Because I could get to the same place where Christian can get to, but we come from different divergence. Music, I think music is changing as well. I think music is becoming more synthesis-based, more original sounds, different sounds than the normal violins and traditional sounds that you hear. So music, because Andy did say that everything's been done and it's just regurgitated in a different way. So, well, I don't know, what do you think?
I didn't quite say it as simple as that, but I know what you mean, yeah. I think everything has been done because there's only 12 notes on the keyboard, right? That's that. But I think that... I think that, well, I wouldn't start with the everything's been done, but what I would say is that what you said about different approaches, I agree. I think it's working out. It's actually what you said right at the beginning, right? About maybe when you guys weren't on the mic, tell a new composer not to have any sound libraries and make his own noises. That comes right back to this question. This thing. But if you are able to, within music, whether it be the notes, whether it be from being a graded pianist or whatever, you still got to come up with your own. Somehow you've got to come up with your own unique signature, whether that be a style of playing, whether that be sounds. But then we come back to the other thing at the beginning. We was asking about how you work with a director and mold yourself, because your style of playing, your sounds, hopefully they like what you're doing, you're still working to a brief, which means it isn't your style of playing or your sounds, because these sounds are the sounds and the playing that you're coming up with for your brief. So they ain't actually yours. They're yours because you're executing them, but you're executing them with a set of rules or a set of beliefs that is going to be telling this story, right? So it's a melting pot, and I think it depends. You've got this big bubbling melting pot, and you've got to work out how you're going to pick it up, scoop it up, and deal with it. And I think that everyone's approach is very, very different. And whether you're from our background, synthesis, or music for music's sake rather than picture, I think it's all about music. That's what it is. It is just music, right? And I was talking earlier about my favorite thing, which is this, the film Dunkirk, how it sticks to the picture. This is just my own personal thing. I just love the way it looks and sounds, and how it makes me feel. And I watch the film quite often. It's not very musical. It's not thematically led, but I do think it makes you very, very scared for the crew members, or very, very nervous for the Spitfire pilot, or all these things. But it's not done with notes, and it's not done with music theory. It's just done with sound. Now, if John Williams was hired to do that same film, it definitely wouldn't sound like that. And for me, I personally wouldn't like it as much, but it would be amazing because it would be John Williams' style. So it would be something you could hum, and it would be this, right? So there's no wrong or right, and all of it is an opinion. And how you get to the bit where they say, signed off, here's your second payment, that's up to everyone, right? So it's like a tightrope, isn't it? What we're always treading, this bloody tightrope. And the good fun of the tightrope is when you think the person that's paying you or hired you, you're right, by the way, you're right, the producers are paying you, the bloody director's telling you what to do. But when I say bloody, I didn't mean that, directors out there. But so it's a tightrope. But as soon as you, as a person, sound maker, musician, whatever you want to call yourself, feel comfortable that what you're doing is what is right for the project, they like it, then you can enjoy yourself, whatever instrument, whether it be sound design, piano, guitar. I think that's the point you're trying to get to. Whatever skill you've got to get you over that line doesn't really matter. As I say, I rely on the unknown. Like every day is I'm trying to get to the top of the Arctic Circle, and I don't know what's there when I get there. I don't know what it's going to look like. That's how my brain. That's one easy way to say. I don't know what does it look like when it gets there. If you know what it looks like when you gets there, but what you're doing is using new ways to get there, that's a different approach. I mean, I never know where I'm going. I just kind of start on the journey and push through until I feel like I'm coasting, and then let's really enjoy it. That's for me.
Well, it's interesting going back to Dario Marianelli, who I have had the great honour of working with on a few different projects. And in fact, I've come in as the cavalry when his schedule has clashed with stuff on a couple of movies. It's very interesting because what he seems to, because he has this command of music theory, what he does is he sets himself. I would almost call it like in golfing terms, he almost handicaps himself. And what you will find with a lot of Dario Marianelli's scores is they're never in 4/4 or 3/4. They're never in common time. So I can't remember. Atonement, is that in like 5/8 or something like that? And he always gives himself a challenge to keep him kind of on his toes and to make him feel that he's venturing into the unknown somehow.
That's a really good analogy. That's a great thing. We've often done this with back in the day with dance music. We've got all these synthesizers. No. Let's strip it down. All we've got is an S039, a 909, and we won't use the sequencer today. We'll track it. So we limit your resource. You're doing it all the time. Keep deleting your sample libraries, which I think you're mad. But that's the similar thing Dario Marianelli's doing, right? Because you're limiting your palette and making yourself more creative.
Yeah. I think Atonement is a great example of that as well. Yeah. He decided he wanted to write a chamber score. This is an epic war film. And a lot of people think that score's massive. It's a tiny band.
It works in the contrary to picture mode. That would work under contrary to picture. So it's contrary to picture that there's massive things going on and this thing's tiny. And that is also a contrary to picture is a great thing. It was a new thing in the 90s where someone's getting stabbed, and instead of having stab music, you got happy music. It's like, wow.
I think Platoon was one of the first ones to do that, or was it Good Morning Vietnam, where they put Wonderful World over the horrible montage.
Yeah, that's a great. Whenever you get that, we want this contrary to picture. You go, I love this.
I love a bit of that.
It's a comedy, and you go really dark.
Yeah. David White, how are you?
Great, I'm fine. Can you hear me?
Can we turn it up? Great.
Okay, it's my first time to talk, but I love hearing Jay talk like you've talked, Chris, and others. Like, I grew up just singing harmonies with my parents in a church as a kid with my brothers. I would hear it, and I would just sing. And that's why I played the violin, learning it in grade school and in towards high school and to college and everything. I learned about chords, but always feeling was very important. And the music had to mean something to me. And I always heard people talking, well, that chord is a G7 sus2. And I go, okay. But the point of that is, it's a note that you allow a chord to come across through the chord that makes an impact. And that makes a feeling. And that's important. I mean, I can harmonize anything. Even today, I've got into vocals. I've done professional singing, solo, and choral work. And I've been singing at a Jewish synagogue where the guy was so easygoing in a small church synagogue. They went to a large one. But I kept doing what I do. If the song is going with this small group of singers and it's missing an attitude to get the feeling out, I give it. I make up the harmony. I'm a string. I'm a whatever, a synthesizer, keeping the sound, or add another few notes that make it more than what it was. And I think it's important to have that, because anything that we like, whether it's in pop music or classical or film scores, it moves you. And if you can't do that, like there's so many people who know so much about music, and I hear them do music and I go, okay, I'm unimpressed by the writing or maybe the performance or whatever. And that's what I try to do. I just try to get a melody. Right now, I'm just starting this, and so I'm learning a lot. So I just feel I want to write out what I'm feeling. I'm on a discovery trip to find out what is it I'm hearing, and can I put one instrument going? Okay, now what other feeling a sub feeling, a deeper feeling. What? Okay, that's a cello maybe, or a synthesizer, and I just try to add it in and textures that help that feeling but don't interfere. And so that's, I'm always impressed with the Chris Henson, with your. I started watching you because you said you didn't even play the piano, you didn't know how to play when you started all this, or whatever, classically trained or whatever it was. Well, my mother played incredibly well, and like Liberace, reading, and then she could make up things too, just creating music.
Yeah.
I'm not that. So hearing Andy and you talk and in your videos say what can be done and how you can achieve what you're looking for is very helpful. And I
think it is, but I would like to say, I mean, I hope I didn't mean to. I hope I've not led this on a tangent that it's better not to know anything about music. No. I just don't know the theory, but I think I agree with you, and that's a fantastic thing. And obviously, what you're doing is putting your heart and soul into it, and that's lifting it to where it is. And you and I do that a lot, and you can do that with or without training. I don't think there's no one hammer to bang in all the nails. There's like a million hammers in the box, and we're one of the many hammers. That's what we are, right?
Yeah.
Just happens to be two of us are quite similar. But, honestly, it's not fair because it's very, very difficult to learn the music theory and understand it and learn your instrument so well. So I think it needs to be said that that's not the curse of deaf, that you can play really well and you can read everything.
No.
That's for sure. It's just... I'm trying to be helpful for the people that can't read and write everything, and that's all. But I think everyone is capable of it. And some of the masters of picture being the thing, back to right where we started, picture being the thing of how do you deal with a brief. We're not writing classical music. We're not writing pop music anymore in that genre. We're hired to do a job for someone else. And we're just using our skills to try and get over the line doing that job. It isn't like you can sit down and go down a rabbit hole and come out with a product and say it's ready for market, because people are commenting on this rabbit hole and it's not fitting and it's not this. So I think it's just how you manipulate. There is a point where, whether you know music theory or not, all you're doing is manipulating the feeling for the story somehow, and it doesn't matter whether it's theory or whether it's chopping it up. It's both the same.
Yeah, and I think that blockers occur at different stages depending on skills and stuff. And I know, for example, Harry Gregson Williams really struggled with drum programming. Initially,
until you sorted him out.
or and then Anne Dudley, who was using samplers when I was a babe in arms. She brought me in as a drum programmer, but to go back to a point that you made is one of the wonderful things about media composition, which I think that you don't find as commonplace within the world of being your own artist, is that when you are pushed. And there's been a couple of times where I've gone, I don't know why you're asking me to do this because I can't do it. Contempt before investigation, which is I'm allergic to, but so guilty of in my own abilities. And the first time it happened to me was when they brought in a composer who prides himself on being a bit thick about theory and stuff, and coming from a dance background, and it was about a fish out of the water. It was about a girl who goes back in time to Jane Austen, and they wanted a modern score. I scored one episode. I went, no, let's just go Georgian. I'm like, well, I don't do Georgian. But actually did a bit of research, and it struck me that actually none of the composers who wrote period dramas did Georgian either. It was a made-up kind of TV Georgian music. And I also thought, I said to myself, I don't do melodies. It was just such a fucking absurd thing to say. Of course you do melodies. We all do melodies. So that's one thing. And then there was this time where, someone made me... I was on a laptop with a tiny, and this is very recently, tiny Akai keyboard. And he made me rewrite the cue in the edit suite in the style of kind of very, very late Mahler. And I was just like, there's no way that I can write this 2.5 minute cue in basically an hour and a half in the style of kind of late period Mahler. For an 80-piece orchestra, and that's what's going into the dub. I basically just had to ignore all the rules that I'd set for myself. And that's what I mean by bottlenecks, is occasionally, I think the ego is one of the biggest blockers, but one of the other blockers, and I've seen it happen with composers who are very, very respectful to theory and to history, is a refusal to do something because it contravenes whatever Bible they're working by. So we've taken a bit of extra time, but I have promised Andy a curry, and we're not in London now. We're in Edinburgh. Things close a little bit earlier. So I just wanted to do a couple of things. First of all is, shall we run the track of the winning candidate for what's been a difficult one? Because, again, it's been very kind of tightly to brief. And as I said, I'm in the midst of making a video about how I would work to this brief, but this is we felt that this is the person who came closest to the brief, so we'd like to congratulate the winner of this latest challenge. The next challenge is going to be absolutely bonkers, so if you haven't subscribed to this channel or indeed joined our mailing list at crowhillcompany.com, please do so, because there's something that I'm just so excited about. It's about a Vaults release that's coming up, and it's just bonkers. So do stick around over the next forthcoming weeks for that. So let's start with the winning track. And excuse me, because we've had some technical problems, I've become slightly distracted about who has won. I don't know if you could maybe if you could announce it, Alan. David Maris. Yeah. Well done, David. Congratulations. This is the winning track for the last challenge. Well done, David. And I love the way that you haven't hit that quantize button. It gives it so much character. Yeah. Excellent stuff. Now, so basically a couple of things with the podcast. What we've decided to do is we're going to move the live podcast onto our extras channel. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is because we think that people are finding it slightly confusing that we're doing the kind of cut down or slightly edited, tightened up versions are going live on the channel, as well as the live versions. No, go for it, mate. So what we're doing is we're putting this live show on the extras channel so that doesn't get confused. And you will notice when you go to our video sections, the live ones don't show up, the edited versions do. But also something that people are missing from the original channel is the montages or the monologues that I do. So we're going to incorporate those into these podcasts as well. So next week we're going to be on Crowhill Extras if you want to watch this live, but also take part in the Google Meet. We're going to be emailing you all about that, so sign up to the mailing list. We'll put a video up on the main channel about all of that. And if you can't be asked to go to the other channel to watch the live version, then we will put out the edited version, which is the version that goes to all the podcast carriers, distributors, on Sunday morning. We've also having to change the name of the Fellowship of the Ring Pull. I'm going to still refer to us as the Fellowship of the Ring Pull, as a group of people. And in fact, you may find that we're changing certain words like network on Crowhill to fellowship. And instead of joining the mailing list, we're going to be putting join the fellowship. So the theme tune is very much going to remain intact, and how wonderful and characterful it is. I believe the title of this podcast has been said 3 times or thereabouts during this particular podcast. So our new title is going to be, can you hear me now? Which has a nice double entendre to it. So that's what we'll be looking at. Can you hear me now?
I'm glad I made it just for that.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Wicked.
So
Love it.
we've also, I'm going to totally poach an idea from Stephen Bartlett. Apparently, a lot of people who are dating, a new game you play for whether a partner is suitable or not is how quickly into a date someone quotes Stephen Bartlett's podcast, Diary of a CEO. But he does have a brilliant thing, which is a guest book, which I'll get you to write in afterwards. And what I'm going to ask you to do is write a question for the next guest, not knowing who the next guest is going to be.
Love that.
So someone, I reached out to social media, and I've written it in the guest book. I've written out to social media to ask for the first question to be put into the guest book because we haven't had a guest sign it. And it actually comes from a guy called Mike Piatti. And that question is, and you know, let's be a brief one on this one. What do you think of the music, of the future of music? What with all of this AI stuff?
Fuck AI.
Yeah. Do you worry? Do you lose sleep?
No.
Why?
Because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Wozniak, there's no I. There's no intelligence. There is no I in AI already.
Yeah.
It's just regurgitating. It's just a very clever algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'm so stupid. There's no AI going to copy me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not possible. Why do you play that? There's no reason.
But the other thing is just no one wants it.
No, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I do want. What I've got already and I love, right, is like, I don't try not to use it. But you know, there's one of the big things with no music. I don't want to go about music. You get to this bit and this bit more in the song days, and you this sounds great, and then someone chops the bit out of the middle, and you can't get the chords to work. Music theory is great. Well, that is brilliant. Where you can say, right, give me 15 chords that one I need to get from this to this. Give me 15 versions, and you pick them, and none of them are right, but that one's nearly right. And then you change it. So there you go. In a nutshell, you've been given options that you wouldn't have had before. One of these very big Cubase has got it built in, Scalar, whatever. You know, I mean, I couldn't ever write with those things, but that would get you out of a hole. But even then, you have to go in and change it because it ain't that good.
No. So what we want is artificial serfs, basically.
Well, I just want them, you know, I mean, basically we want them to do all the boring shit. Right?
Yeah, no, the clerical stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely
so
fine.
I mean, imagine trawling through. I mean, I was talking to you about my library that I've built up within Nuendo Cubase for sounds and track things. Imagine just like, you click, I really like this drum. Give me 15 that sound just different, but I don't want to
kind of like it.
Yeah, bung, 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 bung. Yeah, that one. That one, it's not going to pick it.
Can I just ask you, what do you think of vocal AI? Vocal, the voice.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Because that seems to be something that I see a lot on the internet.
It's horrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if you can't sing.
But if there's a simple fact of any kind of economical or hierarchical structure, if something is devalued, it has no value. So no one will value it. So there's something that I'm really concentrating on with the website is let's not do fancy looking stuff. Let's make it look hand drawn, because it's a little bit like when everyone suddenly had access to printers and suddenly you went into the shittest restaurant and they had fancy looking menus with all of the drop shadows and this, that and the other.
Horrible, yeah.
And actually what people had to do in order to look like they were sophisticated is be artistic, and being artistic is surprising and being original and you know, yeah. So I understand you.
But you know, on that vocal, on that vocal thing, this is interesting, right? So my daughter does Instagram. She's a photographer, really successful Instagram photographer. You know, works for the biggest brands, and she doesn't like. Well, I can't. You can see this. What this thing is here. This is like a DJI thing, and we clip on. And she doesn't really like doing videography, and she'll get like a or two people talking, and she'll say, "Oh, Dad, can you sort it out? Not that she ever pays me or anything, if she's watching. And anyway, so she'll say, can you sort it out? And she'll fling it. And, maybe she's a still photographer. And that side of AI, over the last 3 years, I bought spectral layers for her. And first of all, it divided one mic, 2 people speaking. And then it divided a rustle and gets rid of that. And these people were there, and they were clients. They really existed, but there was a technical problem. And the latest iteration, if it's a distortion or a crackle, is that you can choose to based on a selection, you go, it's Christian, but it's listen to me and you talking for 5 minutes. It can reanalyze you and me and actually make up the bits that's knackered, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like us.
Yeah.
Now that is progress.
Yeah.
Because that is real people dealing with real situations with technical failures or whatever it is, right? Something, we were speaking earlier on a helicopter and over. That's brilliant. But for someone to sing and then just click a button and have a different person singing it, that's...
No, and we're incredibly sensitive to these things. I mean, there's no way I'm going to watch an hour-long documentary with one of those electronic voices on, and you can tell.
You can tell.
And there's no way I'm going to listen to an audiobook. Charles will be pleased with that electronic voice. Let's finish up. Yeah. Just a couple of... I'm going to try a couple of quick-fire things. So, today, what's your favourite score of all time?
Oh my God! Try and be quick. Favorite score of all time: Inception.
Favorite movie of all time today?
Oh my God! Probably. Oh, that's really hard. I'd probably say Michael Caine in Ipcris Files.
Favorite film poster?
Oh, that's interesting. So. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Nice. And
my son bought me that, funny enough, for my studio.
The best kind of artist band that no one's heard of.
Oh, that's interesting. So no one's heard of them.
Well, just that should be maybe given some recognition that they haven't received.
Well, I think you might have heard of him. I'm obsessed with it, is Nick Mulvaney.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with him. Check him out, Nick Mulvaney. I mean, he's quite big, but he's wicked. Very acoustic. Oh my God.
There we go.
One question is how did I find him? Because I was listening to Desert Island Discs, and there's so much info on Desert Island Discs. And Robbie Carlyle said, "I'm late to the game." He had to pick one of the 8 discs, and he picked Robert Mulvaney, and I was like, Nick Mulvaney, sorry. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Awesome.
That's what I love, is that there's these independent record shops. They're winning. And it's all about going in and going, that looks interesting.
Find Desert Island Discs and listen to, if you're into all this film stuff, listen to Blow Your Head. Listen to, first of all, Michael Caine. You won't believe his Desert Island Discs.
Really?
Secondly, Christopher Nolan. And then when you listen to Christopher Nolan, you'll realise why he works with Hans Zimmer. It's brilliant.
Desert Island Discs, if for
podcast,
those
Radio 4.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with this, an institution in
England,
this country.
old school,
but it's really worth a listen. Listen, thanks. Sorry about the technical problems today, and it's thrown me off a little bit. I've been a bit nervous having a guest for the first time in a long time.
I loved seeing all this. I was nervous being here, but this is brilliant.
But Andy, thank you so much. And watch this space. We're going to be seeing a lot more of Andy because we've been working together on something.
We
and
have
it's
a collaboration,
very,
and it does involve all these things around us.
At last, we found a use for them. Nice one, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Lots of love to you all.
Thanks
See
to all of you
next
as well.
week on Crow Hill Extras.
Yeah.
If you feel like you are losing your grip, might suffer a trip or abandon